All right, so now that we've done a hello world in the processing system, we're now going to do a hello world in the FPGA hardware, which we'll be using a Blinky project to do that. So a Blinky project is just a blinking LED. It's a pretty standard hello world application for testing out a new development board. So project name, we'll call it Blinky. Going to speed through this process a little bit faster just because we've already done it once before. Again, target language is VHDL. I'm not going to add anything at this point. We should already be set up with our Zybo board. Okay, so we have our blank project now. And if we go to Digilent's reference manual, we can come down here. And if we go to older versions of the tools and go to getting started with hardware, we can open that up. And they use a Blinky project that we're going to be mirroring. You can follow this. I'm going to go through a little more detail on all of this. They do go through the whole process, and they also have a piece of code down here. This is in Verilog, so I'm going to rewrite a version of this using VHDL instead. So I'm going to come up here and right-click on Design Sources, Add Sources. I want to create a new file. It's going to be VHDL. Call it Blinky. And I will go ahead and say finish. You don't have to do this, but it's somewhat convenient. So we know we're going to need a clock. It's going to be an input. And we know we're going to need an output, which will be an LED, which will be an output. And that's all we need for our ports. The system will think and create our new VHDL. A lot of this, I'm going to go ahead and just delete all this. And then since we're going to be using an incrementer, we will want the ability to do addition in VHDL, which is going to be most easily done using this numeric standard all. And then we are not going to be needing that, so I'll get rid of it. Okay, so we now have our clock and our LED. And then we need to define ourselves a signal. Just to stay consistent, Digilent calls theirs count, so I'll do the same thing. And then we can create a process to do our counting. We will check the rising edge of the clock. And whenever we get a rising edge of the clock, actually, I'm going to make that unsigned so we can do direct addition without having to do any casts. And then we will assign to the LED output the 24th bit of count. And then we'll go through and check out the elaborated designs. All right, so we have a clock that's feeding 25 registers, and the output of the register is getting incremented by 1 on each clock, and that will get read into the LED output. Go ahead and run through our synthesis. We can open our synthesized design and double check that this all looks right as well. Go look at our schematic. So we have a bunch of counters, and we can check to make sure that it is count register number 24 that's being assigned out to the LED. So that's all looking good. And also we can make sure that our clock input is being synchronized across the clocks of all of the counting registers. Okay, so we have the basics of our project down. And now we get into the more interesting part that I want to spend a little bit more time on, because while we've defined what the behavior of the circuit is, we now actually want to run this in hardware, and we haven't told Vivado anything about how our FPGA board actually interacts with the overall printed circuit board. So for instance, here you'll see that we have defined our clock, but we haven't said what our clock frequency is. We've defined an LED output, but we haven't defined what pin on our FPGA is being connected to which LED on our circuit board. So now we get to come back to the reference manual, and we can come over here, and what we want is the master XDC files. XDC files are constraint files that Xilinx uses to define their constraints. So these are all tickle commands that Digilent has put together for us to define how each of their package pins on their FPGA interact with the development board that they've created. And pretty much any development board board that you'll buy will come with one of these constraint files, which will make it a lot easier for you to get up and running and not have to go searching through schematics to try and define all of these yourselves. But I'm also, because I think it's worth looking at, first what I'm going to do is come back here, download all these. You can obviously also get these directly from Git as well if you have that set up on your computer. And we're going to extract those into a constraint files folder that I've created. And so now what we can do is if we go back to Vivado and we come up here to constraints, we can say add sources, add or create constraints. And now what we want to do is we don't want to create a file, we want to add a file because it already exists. And then we just need to look for our constraint file that we just downloaded. And we want the Zybo Z7 master. We want to copy this in. This is actually really important because we don't want to be editing this master location constraint files. We want to bring these in so that any edits we make, any constraints that we either edit or comment out, that's only local to this project. So we just want to copy those in. I'm going to close our synthesis because we'll be making some changes and I don't want this banner showing up all the time. Same with our RTL analysis. So now what we can do is we can come down to open this up, and there are two things that we need. If you look at our ports, we have a clock and an LED. So we need to care about the clock signals and we need to care about the LEDs. So the clock signal, this is defining which package pin, K17, which package pin, the Zybo Z7 connects between the FPGA and the clock on the printed circuit board. They've chosen to call it sysclock, but this name needs to directly match whatever's here. So your choice is either to copy sysclock into your port over here, or what I'm going to do is just copy what I've called it into the constraint file, which is why we chose to copy the constraint file in, because if we chose not to do that, then all these edits would be made to that original constraint file. So what this is saying is that the period is 8 nanoseconds. So this all links together the clock, and then we need the LED as well. And again, this is called LED 0. We only have the one LED, so I'm not going to make this vector. I'm just going to call this LED, which is going to match our top level port on Blinky. I think it's worth taking a moment as well to come back here. And if you scroll down, you'll see, you should assume that if you have a recently purchased board that you have a revision D schematic. So you can open this up and this will actually show you the whole schematic of the Zybo. Everything that's on it, everything that gets connected into the FPGA. All of these are all the FPGA ports. And so what we want to look at, just as an example, is the LED to start with. And we can start looking through these, and yeah, let's look for LED 0. So this is the LED and the net is LED 0. So if we keep looking through for LED 0, here's where we connect into a 3.3 volt bank on the FPGA from LED 0, and the pin is M14. If you then go back to the constraint file and look for LED 0, we have package pin M14. We have an LVCMOS 3.3 volt standard, and we're calling it LED. And then it also gives some more information about how it looks on the schematic. And if you go back and look at the schematic, IO L23P T3 LED 0. This would be your process if they didn't provide a master XDC constraint file, then this would be your process of how you define these. Is you have to look at the schematic to see how the printed circuit board connects the PCB pin to the physical LED on the circuit board. You can then do the same thing for the clock. So they call it sysclock on their schematic or on their constraint file. So I'm going to assume that they call it the same thing on their schematic. Yep. So the net, they call it sysclock. It's pin K17. Pin K17. It's on the 3.3 volt bus. They're calling it IO standard LVCMOS 3.3 volts. So that all aligns. And then if you want to look for where sysclock shows up over here, we have a clock out that's coming from this IC28. If we search for this, looks like they're taking a 25 megahertz crystal oscillator into the Ethernet controller, and then we're getting a output clock from that controller that is 125 megahertz. Let's see if we can see anywhere in here where it describes what the clock actually is. There you go. Provides a 125 megahertz clock source for the Mac that it looks like Digilent has repurposed not just for the Mac, but for the entire FPGA. That's very interesting. So what we're going to do then is that would also be the process that you'd go through again for the clock. So if we come back here, we have our 125 megahertz clock based on this period. That's how the ports at the top level of our VHDL get related back to the printed circuit board to make sure that the FPGA is interacting appropriately with the hardware. So now we can go back ahead and run our implementation now that we have our constraints matching our top VHDL. All right, the implementation completed successfully. Let's go ahead and open the implemented design. Looks like we have one warning, which I'm assuming is because, yeah, no output delay. Okay, so this is just saying that Vivado doesn't know how much of a time delay there is between the output of the external pin going to the circuit board and how much delay there will be before any signal from the output of the FPGA reaches the LED. That can be a problem for something where timing is really important of what's happening outside of the FPGA. For instance, if you have an analog to digital converter or a digital to analog converter where it matters a lot what the timing is of when each data sample is arriving at that DAC, for instance, then this can be a problem because you need to tell Vivado that it needs to compensate for the amount of time it takes for a signal to propagate from the output pin of the FPGA to that external component. In our case, the LED has no timing constraints on it. It'll just light up whenever a signal gets there. We don't actually care that we haven't provided an output delay. So that can be ignored. You can look and see that we have a set of counting registers and a set of adders, which are going to be used to implement our counting logic and hold our data values. We have our output LED on pin M14, and we have our clock coming in on K17. All right, so we're all set there. That all looks the way that I would expect it to. One other view that we can look at, if you want to, again, have a better idea for I/O planning, is we can come over here, and this is each of the balls on the ball grid array underneath the FPGA itself. And so a lot of these are taken up with power and ground and the processing system. So you can see that there's a bunch of, over here is the DDR RAM, external DDR RAM being connected into the FPGA for the processing system. And then over here, we have our LED assigned. And over here we have a clock assigned. And then all of these are additional pins that most of them, somewhere between most and all of them, have been used for other external items, switches, buttons, RGB LEDs, HDMI, things like that. If you are interested, you can go through and look how each of these are related to the actual I/O package. But what we care about here is if you were to click on one of these, you can see that it's our output pin, it's LVCMOS, 3.3 volts. We can leave everything else just the way it is. So this is just another view of the chip itself. This is more often used if you're designing a completely custom printed circuit board, because where you assign the pins matters a lot for the layout person, to make sure that you have an efficient routing from the ball grid on your FPGA to the rest of the circuit board. But for those of us working just with the development board, we don't use this too often just because we have no control over these assignments. All we can do is use whatever assignment, in this case, Digilent has provided for us. But it is interesting to look at and is available if you would like to see it. To default layout, we can finish up by generating our bitstream. We'll go ahead and open our hardware manager. And now we will open our target. We can go ahead and program the device. We want the Blinky bitstream and program. And there you have it. You have your blinking LED coming out onto the circuit board. So that's all for this one. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how the FPGA itself interacts with the external circuit board and how constraint files can be used to define the behavior between the FPGA itself and all of the peripherals surrounding it that are on the circuit board.